Hey, this is Lori Asbury, CEO of CMOCO Marketing and Advertising. And if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my good friend, Scott Ferguson. Let's level up.
Are you ready to level up? Do you wish to live a life of options and not obligations? You've come to the right place. Thank you for stopping on by to hear knowledge nuggets from Coach Fergie and his top-tier guest to help you lean into your ultimate human potential. Now, let's level up with Coach Fergie.
Hey, Time to Shine Today podcast varsity squad. Welcome back to another powerful edition of Time to Shine Today podcast. I'm your coach. I'm your host, Coach Fergie. Blessed to be your GAP coach, specializing in peak performance mental conditioning, working with business leaders, entrepreneurs, entertainers, athletes, C-suite, and students to help them bridge their success gap to live a life of options and not obligations. On this platform, we are stoked to bring you high performers who are not just attaining and chasing success, but redefining it through providing above and beyond service. And squad, let me kick this off with something with a coaching client I had this week. And he's a really good guy. You know, smart, talented, but he kept getting stuck in his own head, overthinking every move, second-guessing every decision, trying to calculate his way to confidence instead of embodying it. You know, he, like me, is a real dog person. Like, I have my pit bull Stitch that I rescued and my other fur babies and stuff like that. So, and he is as well. He's a rescue guy. And I said, like, let's look at the animals. They don't negotiate with themselves. They don't talk themselves out of who they are. You know, a wolf doesn't wake up one morning wondering if today he feels like being a wolf. He operates in instinct, identity, alignment. Every move comes from a place of knowing, not hoping. But humans, we complicate the hell out of everything. We stack emotions on top of stories, doubts on top of expectations. We drain all of our energy debating what we already know we're built for. So we kind of circled it back to himself. And I kind of told him, stop trying to earn permission from your feelings. Act from identity. When you do that, hesitation dies. And the shift was instant. He dropped back into his instinct. Decisions became faster. Pressure got quieter. Performance went up because he wasn't trying to feel ready anymore. He was operating from who he is, not what his fear tells him who he might be. That's the parallel. When you reconnect with your instinct, your standard, your built-in wiring, everything gets simpler, cleaner, more powerful. You don't waste time negotiating with doubt. You just execute. And today's guests understands this identity clearing instinct at the highest level. So today's squad, we're leveling up with someone who has built, shaped, and scaled brands that most people only dream of touching. I'm talking about a powerhouse leader with more than 25 years steering billion-dollar empires such as HGTV, Fox Television Stations, CBS Television Stations, yeah, the big leagues, peeps. And she didn't just sit in the room, she moved the room. Lori Asbury is a strategic assassin in the best possible way. A master at brand development, digital marketing, organizational operations, and consumer engagement. When companies want to evolve, expand, or exploit into new markets, they call Lori. She sees the big picture, executes the tiny details, and connects dots the rest of us didn't even know were on the page. She holds an MBA from Cornell University, Smarty Pants, which is one of the toughest programs in the world, along with a BA in journalism from the nationally ranked Gaylord College at the University of Oklahoma. So when it comes to communication, media, and message, she's playing chess while everyone else is just setting up the board. But here's what I love most behind my good friend here. Behind the business brilliance, Lori's a lifelong animal lover, a former farm owner, a competitive equestrian, and a fierce advocate for animal welfare. She's an ASPCA supporter, a diehard Oklahoma Sooner fan, and we'll talk about that, and someone who brings passion and heart into everything she touches. You're about to learn from a leader who has mastered both boardroom and the barn, strategy and soul, execution and empathy. So let's lean in, tune in, break out your notebooks, squad, especially if you're looking to build anything, because we're talking about someone who's led billion-dollar businesses. And Lori, thank you so much for coming on. Please introduce yourself to the Time to Shine Today podcast varsity squad. But first, what's your favorite color and why?
Blue is probably my favorite color. And I think probably because I see it in so many places, and it's just always, it comes in so many different shades. And I think all shades are pretty beautiful of the color blue. And I have blue eyes. And when I wear a blue shirt, I think it brings out the color of my eyes. So I'll go with that.
And you got blue behind you in your logo.
And I have
there.
Blue behind you. It's part of our logo colors and our
it's
brand
definitely in your
colors.
color wheel. I mean, squad, if you're watching on Vimeo or YouTube, she's absolutely stunning, but she's a powerhouse. So I cannot wait to take some super, super awesome notes here. So let's get a little bit of this backstory, because Cornell, Gaylord, I'm like, do that. Like, this is some serious education.
Well, it happens over time, right? So I did get my undergrad at the University of Oklahoma. I was very blessed to be a part of the Gaylord College of Journalism and Mass Communication, which is a top ranked school.
Huge.
And so I had a lot of really great foundation, great education, but I feel like I'm really blessed because I actually was able to build a career in my field of study. And I know a lot of people, weren't able to do that,
Right.
so, but my career's really evolved over many, many years. So, I started out really always on the marketing and advertising or promotion side, working for major media companies or working for local television stations. So started out of college and local TV stations, working in the promotions department, promoting the news and working in newsrooms, that type of thing. But ultimately every job was the next step in building my career, moving up to either a position with higher responsibility or a larger market where you have more responsibility, more pressure, if you will. But then ultimately opening up my own business, so it's definitely been a career that has evolved over many years, but one that I'm blessed to say I absolutely love. It's been a passion of mine ever since I studied it, and I just feel so blessed to wake up every day and get to do what I love.
So you standing on the shoulders of a lot of giants that helped you out along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've learned so much from so many people. I had mentors, of course, all the way along the way. So many. I would say, there are definitely, I don't know that I had a mentor in every job that I had, but I certainly had a few that stood out and really guided me. And I think even, some encouraged me, like to get my MBA, for example. I think that was a pivotal point in my career because it really changed my way of thinking. It helped me change and kind of shift or pivot the way I approach marketing brands and thinking of it more from a business perspective than versus just strictly from a creative perspective. So yeah, absolutely had influencers along the way that kind of steered me in specific directions.
Glad you said that, because some people they'll be like, "No, I made it." And it's just like, dude, and I love that you said shift and pivot, because like our generation used shift, right? This newer one used pivot. I just say shivet now. So kind of moves along. But let me ask something, Lori. So you've led billion-dollar brands and guided teams through massive growth, right? So, but what was the moment in your career when you realized I'm not playing small anymore and I belong at the top table? Because again, I know your age, and I'm not gonna say it, but I know your age. And so you were at the tail end of like, dude, you're a female, quiet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like tell me like when you decided to play big.
Well, I honestly think it was probably about 20 years ago, maybe a little more. And I think my primary motivation for it, honestly, was just because I wanted to be the decision maker. I would get frustrated working behind people who I felt were making decisions that I probably would have made a different decision. And so my main source of inspiration and motivation came from, hey, I want to be in a position of authority where I can make, be the ultimate decision maker. And so I think that was kind of, really a turning point for me. But I remember really my first big job, what I would say my first big job where I was in a lead role with a what I would say is a pretty good sized media company. It was with CBS in Chicago. I was working for the local owned and operated TV station there, and I became head of the marketing and promotion department there. And I was 29, and I was like, oh man, I've made it under the age of 30, and that was like my first big kind of six-figure job at working for a major media company. But again, my primary motivation was just because I knew I had it in me to make good decisions and to be in a position of authority and to lead teams. And that was really my kind of my inspiration.
Sure. Each brand has its own kind of specific identity, right? Because you've built brands that reach millions of them, but they all have their own identity. So like in your own journey, what part of your identity was kind of the hardest to fully step into? Because I mean, you seem ballsy, like you're like this, and I love that, right?
Yeah.
But what was the hardest one that you, Lori Asbury, had to like really lean into? And then how did you own it?
I think, that's such a great question. And it's kind of it's actually a hard question, because I think when you're working for major media companies or in corporate life in general, you have a sense of feeling the need to adapt to that culture. And I think that's where you can lose yourself. And I think that it's really, really important for you to stay true to who you are, stay true to your principles, your values. And when you see that you're not necessarily aligned with an organization in that regard, then I think it's time to really reconsider where you are. I had that happen, I would say, in the last media company that I worked for before I actually went out on my own and started my own company. And that was one of the primary motivators, I think, was that I had worked in corporate media for so many years, and I certainly felt like I fit in certain cultures more than I fit in others.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the last culture I was in, not saying anything bad about that culture, just very much different than my own personal beliefs, my own personal value system. And I think that it was a turning point for me to say, hey, I'm at a point in my life where it's important for me to be true to who I am, to feel like I can say what I want to say, and be the type of person that I am, and express things about myself that I don't have to be ashamed of or be afraid of. And so I think, really, I would say probably in the last, well, I've owned the company now. I've owned CMO Co. We're starting our 15th year in business. Wow. So that's a great anniversary and a great milestone for us to hit. Yeah. So I would say really
you started it at the tail end or the middle of a recession too.
Yeah. Definitely. Craziness. And then we've grown a lot, especially we've grown a lot since COVID, but I will say kind of stepping out onto my own is where I felt, I really truly felt free. I felt like I could be myself. I could build my own company, aligned with my own values. And it's not to say that I don't respect my employees who have different values than I might have, or different priorities in life, but certainly, in a position where I feel like, hey, I don't have to be somebody I'm not.
Right. So let's unpack that even maybe a little bit more. So the higher you climb, right, the louder the pressure gets. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what give us a time from your moment of leadership journey where you had to make a decision that scared you, and how did you keep your instincts louder than your doubt?
Oh my gosh, so many times, right? So when you're when you're heading marketing for a major media company and you have large budgets and you're running very large, and very tight timelines, and you're doing things extremely quickly, and you're spending lots of money because you're running full on media campaigns across a national, across a national scope, and so you have to make very swift decisions, and you're promoting in a lot of cases shows that you don't necessarily believe in, or you don't think they're necessarily unique or that good. And so you have to do the very best that you can, but you definitely just have to rely as much as you can on your own instinct and your gut, and try to make the best decisions that you possibly can. But you don't just rely on your gut solely, right? So you try to lean into data, you try to lean into, past campaigns or market research or trends, or, so there was a lot of tools. Have been a lot of tools that we could, that I could leverage to lean into to, help guide my decision making.
That's amazing. So when you're working, do companies come to you for the marketing? How does that kind of work? Is there a discovery meeting that you set up with the decision maker from the company? Can you kind of walk us through that?
Yeah. So for CMO Co. Marketing and Advertising, which is my ad agency now, generally what happens when somebody's interested in, hiring us for our services, they are usually at a point in their timeline or at a stage with their company where they have stalled. Growth has stalled, and they're looking to take their business to the next level. And they know that they need to do some sort of advertising. So generally we just start with a meeting, a free meeting where we just sit down and talk. I gain an understanding of kind of what their pain points are, what they're trying to accomplish. We really try to be super strategic out of the gate. So we really want to know where they are currently in their income, where they want to go within the next year, and then what are their 5-year goal, their 5-year timeline in terms of what they're wanting to accomplish from an income standpoint.
Right?
Yeah. We really want to know, is it achievable? Is it realistic? And then we really, ask them, try to get a good understanding of where they fit in their competitive environment, what their products and services are, how they're differentiated, how they're telling their story, who they're trying to target, what does that target customer care about. So, once we've been retained, those are the things that we dive into right away. So we spend the first 6 to 8 weeks really developing a very comprehensive strategic marketing and advertising plan that's really aligned with an organization's business goals and their sales goals.
Right.
And there's a lot of things that go into it. But by doing that, it really keeps us, one, focused and strategic. And also we know that we have what we know is a good plan to move the needle. So we're really looking at what's the lowest hanging fruit in terms of us reaching their target customer and converting them into a paying customer. And so we have a lot of strategies that go into that. But I think that, what a lot of companies do that is a big mistake. They just jump right into the creative part of it. So let's run an ad campaign. Let's do some digital marketing. Let's do some social media.
Instead of finding what's actually there that we can take now to build on. right?
Exactly.
Okay.
They just throw things out there to see what sticks without really having a purpose behind it, you
Right.
know? And so we want to mitigate that. We want to make sure that every marketing tactic that we're employing to grow a company's business is rooted in something that's strategic and that we know based on market research or based on their competitive landscape is going to move the needle. And
Love it.
so I would say that's what differentiates us a little bit more than just a traditional ad agency, because I think a lot of people go to an ad agency for a point in time. We need a campaign for a point in time.
Right.
We work with our clients more long term. We're really like I would say kind of the premise of the name of our company, which is CMO Co. We're like their chief marketing officer and their marketing team that just doesn't happen to sit inside their
Right.
organization.
I love that you say that, because they're missing so many. I know there's a cliche that I could probably say, but they're missing something that's already there, right? And it's so simple that I love that you grab that and then build a plan around, just keep growing and growing and growing, right? So maybe in this meeting that you're starting to have with them, maybe even before you're retained, and squad, for all of you people out there that are like maybe needing an introduction to Lori, or your company's in a spot like this, like I want you to listen to, like, is there any good question that they should be asking you but never do?
Oh, that's actually a really good question. So I think one of the things that we do run into sometimes with clients is they know that they need to grow. They come to us for our professional expertise,
Right.
and then sometimes they don't want to listen to what we have to say. And I understand that. Like first and foremost, in company's defense, they know their business way better than we know their business, right?
Yeah, they better, right?
But we also know marketing and advertising. So, and we also know how to reach consumers. We also know how to break down audiences. We know how to message to consumers. And when we're looking at a competitive marketplace, and we're looking at a business, how they fit in that competitive marketplace, it's really, really important for companies to understand where they fit in and how they're differentiated. And sometimes they know that, but they don't know how to communicate that. And so what I would love, we have a what we call, it's a customer success onboarding document. So we actually, and sometimes we give this to a client before we even are retained by them, but we want to make sure that we understand what their goals are and what they believe to be the path to success is, or what they think success will look like, so that we're best set up to be successful with them. So we want to know what their expectations are, so that we can look at that and say, hey, that's a realistic expectation of us, or this is not a realistic expectation. So we do have a questionnaire that we do give our clients or a potential client, and just say, hey, let's talk through these things and make sure that we're both on the same page. Sure. And we want to also make sure that you're invested in this. So do you have the resources to invest in what we think is going to be necessary to move the needle? And that comes in all shapes and sizes. So It's not, one size fits all kind of a approach, for sure. But yeah, I think the most important thing is that you're aligned, from as early on as you can possibly be.
Right.
And making sure that, and that's part of the reason for the strategy development too, is so that we can use that as our roadmap for success. We can say, hey, this is what we've all agreed on. This is the strategic plan that we developed. There was a lot of time, thought, research, market, data that went into this. This is what we know to be our best plan to move your business forward. And so 3, 4, 5 months down the road, when you see the shiny new object in the corner, let's not get distracted by that. Let's go back to the plan and stay on that plan, because, things take time. Right. And one of the things that's the most important thing about advertising and marketing is that it's consistent. Right. And, a lot of people, they have expectations of, I'm going to run a digital ad campaign and I expect to see double-digit growth in a month. And well, that's not realistic.
Probably not gonna happen.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly.
With you being like myself and all the other awesome animal lovers out there, like you have like an amazing balance, boardroom, and also like being an animal advocate. But what do you feel like the animals, and again, this kind of goes back to this coaching session I had with an awesome client of mine, but that animals maybe have taught you about leadership and like the human behavior that the corporate world doesn't understand yet. Like, what have you picked up from the instincts from animals?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, they teach you to be pretty self-disciplined, especially horses, because, and I, as a competitive equestrian, that is something that you have to be extremely disciplined with, not only in the care of the animal, but
Sure.
also in your growth as a rider and making sure that you're doing the things that you need to do to advance you as an athlete. And you're not solely dependent upon yourself. You're working with an animal. So, but also, just on the kind of on the emotional side, animals will give you everything, right? They're just the most selfless creatures on the
Yeah.
face of the planet. For the most part, all of them have just, they have the best souls, and
Right.
they give unconditional love. And
Yeah.
so how can you not, support them and try to give back to them and
Love
try to
that.
help? Yeah. Try to help. But
We're the only living being on this earth that does not live to our potential.
right.
I mean, anything else that's living, a tree will only grow as high as the roots. Like a
Mhm.
dog will, well, people say, well, like that dog's fat. Sometimes the owner isn't exactly in great shape either.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, so they just follow, but they lead. Like if I was to let my Stitch out, he would roam this whole neighborhood. He's the friendliest pit bull you ever meet. And
Right.
he kind of does meet everybody, but he would just keep going and going and going. Like that's the thing about humans is we don't live to that potential that
No.
we have. And I wish that they had that, like your energy and even some of mine. But have you seen the movie Back to the Future?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So I mean it's 40 years old now. It's crazy, right? I think it was
Mhm.
13 when it came out. Yeah. So okay, let's get in that DeLorean with Marty McFly.
Mhm.
Let's go back to the Double Deuce, the 22-year-old Lori.
Mhm.
What kind of knowledge nuggets would you drop in her? I don't want you to change anything because your journey's been
Yeah.
pretty freaking awesome,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But to
Thank you.
maybe help Lori shorten a learning curve or blast
Yeah.
through maybe a little quicker in the situation.
So again, I mentioned earlier that I feel like I'm so blessed that I was able to work and build a career in my field of study. And I think that if I could give
Hell
one piece of
yeah.
advice, yeah, if I could give one piece of advice to anybody, it's just follow your passion, and that's where you'll find the most success.
Thank you.
If you can wake up every day and really truly love what you do, and I know not everybody has that option, and I know that again, everyone's journey is very different, but truly try to lean into the things that you love and try to build on what your passions are. And I do think you'll ultimately find success. But the other thing I would say is just continue to educate yourself. Be a lifelong learner. That's something that I've always tried to do. I got my master's at Cornell many years after I got my undergrad. I felt like it was important to go work
Sure.
first in the
Yeah.
workforce. And I thought that I could
Me
apply
and
a
you
lot of
both,
what
love.
yeah,
Me and
yeah.
you both.
I thought I could apply a lot more to my education,
Yeah.
having worked a while. So that was something that was important to me to continue my education. But even to this day, and I'm nearing the end of my career, is to, I listen to podcasts, I read a lot of books,
Yeah.
I still try to train myself, and the other thing too is I surround myself with people that are smarter than me, and I think that's really really important.
Dude.
Find people that love what they do also,
Yeah.
but hire people that are smarter than
Yes.
you. They're not going to make you look bad, they're going to make you look
Yeah,
better.
the smartest guy in the room is the one that hires other people that are smarter
That
than them, right? I mean,
a
that's Henry
hundred
Ford said that years ago, and look what he built,
A hundred, a hundred
So,
percent,
you
a
know,
hundred percent. And you obviously, especially when you have your own company, you want to be surrounded by people that are
yeah,
smarter than you, so that you can lean on them, but also they bring
yeah,
so much to the party, if you will. So,
sure. Yeah, and I actually am taking. So I got my GI Bill, right? And I
mhm,
was like,
mhm.
man, I tried a semester at Western Michigan, and I was like, no, this is not going to work. So I got like my pilot's license with it, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
So at the end of the last administration, they opened up a lot more GI Bill money, right?
Mhm,
So they like offered it to me, and I'm like, dude, I don't have a degree, so I'm like, I'll end taking the psychology classes because it aligns with my coaching, right?
mhm,
So I'm getting
mhm,
the free education on it. But if I was to take psychology only, it's like I'm not probably going to get a job in my vocation, right? Like you
mhm.
said, like if try to go to school for something that you really are passionate about. If you're passionate about, you'll find a freaking way. You just
Right.
will. Bottom
Yeah.
line, that's all there is to it. So, how does Lori want her dash remembered? That little line in between your incarnation date and your expiration date, your life date and death date. Hopefully, it's way down the line. But how does Lori
That's
want her dash remembered?
that's so funny. I just want to be remembered as a good person, and somebody that actually gave back to the community and loved people. And I think that's so funny because I'm actually in a life group right now, and we're doing reading a book called Living Life Backwards, and it's really the study of Ecclesiastes, which is really all
Mm,
about that whole
100%.
Yeah. Is all about how from dust you are created and to dust you will return. And we toil and we toil and we toil every day trying to reach that next thing and
Underrated
find
book
that
in the
next
Bible,
letter
man.
and
Yes.
and try to do this and no one's going to remember it, right? So each day is a blessing, and look at each day as a blessing, and look at the gift that you've been given right now, which is the gift of life, and to try to always give back. And I think part of the things we were talking about with animals is just find something that you care about that you can give back to. You'll find so much more meaning in your life when you can give back to other human beings or to give back to other creations that we have in the world. And I think if anything, I want to be remembered as a good mother, of course, to my children, but also just a good person who loved people.
In a pit bull when you needed to be. I mean, that's awesome. I love that you're talking about, because I'm a big believer in that the first part of our life we learn, right? And then second part, kind of the middle we earn, and then the third part we return, right? So you're giving it back. And I absolutely love that you're doing that. That's amazing. So
I'm trying.
Then do you think that there's anything that people might misunderstand the most about Lori?
I think that, because I have, had a long career in media and have had some, success, and obviously success running my own business. And I think people sometimes, and I can be very direct, so I'm not going to lie. I'm not, I definitely, speak my mind, can be a little harsh sometimes, sometimes it's okay. And I'm okay with it. And other times I'm like, I probably shouldn't have said that. But so, live and learn for sure. I think, I don't know, like it's just really, I think people sometimes can get intimidated and they don't have to be, I think, I'm very approachable. I will say I'm extremely fair. I hope that I built a company, where my employees say, hey, she's super fair. She's, she lets us do our job. She's not a micromanager. I definitely am not a micromanager. Don't want to be a micromanager. Why hire people and then hover over them? So I really just hope that people, know that I care and that, I'm still growing and certainly not a perfect person, but
I
growing a long
love
way.
your vulnerability, your honesty. It's refreshing.
Thank you.
Hey, Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. Welcome back. And thank you for Jocko Products, Sleep Number Beds, and Indeed.com for all your support. And Miss Lori, like one of these times I'm up at Knoxville, we're going to have to connect and maybe have a cup of coffee. We might talk about some of these questions.
Okay.
10, 15 minutes. But today, you got 5 seconds with no explanations. And I promise you, they can all be answered that way. And what I know about, like, I always ask it and I check the screen. And you're like, bring it on. It was like a smile. I wasn't nervous. Some people are like, oh, crap, man. It was like, I love this. I love this. So you ready to level up?
I'm ready to level up. Let's do it,
Lori. Okay. Lori, what's the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Hire people smarter than you.
Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success. Hire people smarter than you.
No. Say that again.
One of your personal habits that contributes to your success. Personal.
I make my bed every morning.
Yes, perfect. So you see me kind of walking around maybe at an event or something, like Fergie looks like he's in his doldrums. Is there any book that was handed to you to maybe shift, mindset in your brain that you might hand to me?
The one that I'm reading now, I will say, has been very powerful, and that's Living Life Backwards.
Love it. I have to check that one out then. Okay. One decision in your career that you would make again every single time.
Just going into television, working in television.
Love it. Your most commonly used emoji when you text.
Laughing.
Nicknames growing up.
Turd.
Love it. Yes.
My maiden name is Turwell, so let me just explain that.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. It's Turwell?
Turwell was my maiden name.
Okay,
So
cool.
so Turd, it was what people called me, Turd.
Love it. Okay, that's cool. Hey, I'm sure they're only friends that called you that, so that's good. So any hidden talent and or superpower that you have that nobody knows about really until now?
I can sing a little, but not great. Like I can sing. I sing at church. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Chess, checkers, or Monopoly?
Monopoly.
Okay. Headline for your life.
5 seconds. Headline for my life. Happy.
Yeah, beautiful. Go-to ice cream flavor.
Mint chocolate chip.
Love it. There's a sandwich called the Turd Asbury. Build that sandwich for me. What are we eating?
Grilled cheese.
Okay. Wow. Really? Very cool. A good grilled cheese. Good cheese though, right?
Grilled cheese. Yep.
Love it. Love it. Favorite charity and or organization like you give your time and or money to?
There's several, but definitely Farm America ASPCA for sure, and then American Farmland Trust.
Beautiful. Awesome. Last question. You can elaborate on this one a little bit, and I'm actually curious on this one with you, but what is the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
These.
80s. Okay. Really? Okay. I thought you were going to say 70s.
Well, it
okay.
kind of is it's kind of a crossover there.
Yeah.
So I would say late 70s, early 80s, because that was like my coming of age time.
Yeah.
That was when I was in high school, college. That was kind of my my generation. So I like, Guns N' Roses, REO Speedwagon, I like all the classic rock and roll.
Yeah. Yeah. My Susan's your age. So it's like, so there's like, when we listen to the radio, it's perfect because we kind of jive with the same stuff. So how can we find you, Miss Lori?
Yeah. So go to cmoco.com. That's CMOCO.com. Or you can just email me if you want to talk about anything or ask any questions. It's Lori@cmoco.com. And check us out. We would love to hear from you, work with you. We have a landing page that you can go to. Actually, if you just go to leadwithlori.com, there's a survey there. If your sales are stalled, you can take a quick survey. We will send you some ideas on things to help get your sales unstalled and moving. And there's some other good resources there for you to tap into.
On this site here that I have open, this is your site. And then
that's our
website. The other one is Lead with Lori, right?
Yeah, it'll redirect you just to a landing page on this site. Yeah.
Okay. And then also, you said that there's a survey. Where can they find that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's at the Lead with Lori. If you go to leadwithlori.com, there's a survey there. It's just a really brief survey. And it's for any company that feels like their sales have kind of stalled or just are stagnant or you're not really kind of moving forward. Take the survey. We'll look at the answers. We'll give you
probably spelled it wrong.
It's lead with LORI.com. Yep. There it is.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And we will send you some just tips or some things that you should consider or think about. And then there's some downloadable free resources there, like the 5 things that every company should be doing to advertise their business. So just some stuff there you can check out. Yeah.
And squad, this will all be in our show notes in there. And I'll remind you again in my intro to definitely go there. But when are you writing a book?
Oh, I'm not.
What? Like, I'm sorry. I got to call you out on that one.
I am not. I know. I'm not. I'm not right. I'm not. I have no interest. I have
from Chicago to like everything. Come on, man.
I don't know.
You can shorten the learning curve for a lot of people.
It's really not that interesting.
Lord, you can shorten the learning curve for a lot of people. I promise.
Well, I don't know. Thank you. I appreciate that. But probably
what you should do is write it like I'm writing mine. Mine's a business parable. Right. So it's like it's called Harmonic Hustle because I don't believe in balance. I believe in harmony. And basically it's a hero's journey of, somebody that is in the real estate business like I was for 25 years and loses a big deal and he's going to quit and he meets these 5 people that kind of do. I'm sure there's been 5 people that you've met throughout your life that I'm telling you, like I see your marketing. Like you got to write a book.
And then you blend in your personal story too. Yes. And it's like that's mine always chaos, right? Like
it's a personal story. It's told through another dude's eyes.
That's
true. I did put Stitch in my book though. So
you did? Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So do me one last solid. Actually, do everybody one last solid. But leave us with one last knowledge nugget that we can take with us, internalize, and take action on.
Yeah, I would just say, really look to ways that you can give back to either your employees or your community. I think you'll take so much from that. But also, I think by doing that, you add so much to your business. You meet people along the way, but there's, everybody's got a story to tell. So when you're out there kind of interacting with people and engaging with people, and I don't mean just give money. I think giving money is important, but I mean actually touch and feel and communicate with people and get in front of people and be relational with people. I think you'll see yourself growing as a person, but also I think there's so many things that you learn from that you can apply to your business.
I love that. And squad, and again, when you start hearing, you're going to talk to, a marketing company, but this was awesome. Like the knowledge nuggets that I'm walking away with from my good friend Lori here, it reminded us, to stay true to, who you are. You don't always adapt to someone's culture. If it's not aligned with you, reconsider where you're at, get out. So go on your way. And she also reminded us to, rely on our instinct and our gut. Use data and history, but stay true to you. If your growth is stalled out there, or if you know that there's more to your company, please let me make a warm introduction to CMOCO and my good friend Lori here, who's, she drives a purpose-driven company. They're strategic, they move the needle, but they're purpose-driven. They're going to look out for your best interests. She wants to remind you, and she does, she's a lifelong learner, follows her passion. And if you don't know something, or young ones out there, get your asking gear. There's people out there that will answer the questions for you, so do not be afraid. She'll be remembered as someone that is a good person, gave back. And I really am a firm believer she's planting trees she's never going to sit in the shade of. Like, what she's doing is a lot different. She's got to write a book. I'm just telling you. I see her doing things, again, with her saying, no, I don't have a book. She does things for the intention, not the attention. Like, she's out there, like, grinding for the people that she's serving. And like she talked a lot of it about mentoring. And we believe, at Time to Shine Today, the more we mentor, the more immortal we become, right? So go out there, give back. It'll only add to your business. Again, the first part of your life is about learning. The second part's about earning, and third part's about returning. So give it back, squad. And that's what my good friend Lori does. She levels up her health. She levels up her wealth. She's absolutely stunning. She's earned her varsity letter here at Time to Shine Today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for
absolutely
having me.
Love your guts, man.
So appreciative of you having me on. Thank you so much.
Yay. All right. Chat soon. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today, proudly brought to you by Inlet Properties and Investments. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on the Time to Shine Today podcast, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you'd like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also, there you will see our recommended resources. We hope you will help support our show by supporting them. If you like what you have been listening to, it'd be great if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's your time to shine.